The other area for a professional services firm like ours is we have some very, very, very smart people that retire every year and take a piece of knowledge with them. What if we're able to not only retain it, but multiply that brilliance and give junior engineers and scientists access to not one or two mentors, but the collective knowledge of 10, 20, 50 experts in a domain.
Welcome to the Trailblazers podcast presented by BST Global, where we feature the visionaries who are helping to shape the AEC industry of the future. My name is Javier Baldor, Chief Executive Officer at BST Global and your host for today's podcast. Joining me today, we have Chadi Habib, Chief Technology Officer and Head of Business Solutions at WSP. Chadi, welcome, and certainly has been an honor to host you here on this podcast naturally, but also as a keynote presenter at the BST Global AI Summit. So thank you very much for both your kind support in those endeavors.
Thank you for having me.
If you'd be kind enough to introduce our audience to WSP.
Sure.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm happy to do that. So WSP is an engineering and science firm. We are a collection of some really smart people, 73,000 of them, engineers, scientists, advisors across the world, almost on every continent, who day in and day out try and figure out how to solve complex problems that impact our clients, people, our communities, and our planet. We operate in 4 end markets generally: property and buildings, transport and infrastructure, earth and environment, and of course, power. So that's a little bit about WSP. My role in the group is, as you mentioned, head of technology. What does that mean? Both the internal side of technology, so what we use to run the company, our ERP platforms, all our PCs, our software, that belongs to the CIO in my organization. But also, Alex, our CEO, has asked me to orchestrate our client-facing digital growth strategy, and that is the applied digital solutions that we offer to our clients, and we work with our clients to optimize how we plan, design, build, run, and eventually remediate a natural or built asset. So that's the best way I can describe both of those aspects, if you will.
Well, you're too humble to say it, but WSP is as prestigious and renowned as they come in the engineering, advisory, and science-based, built environment. So unbelievable what Alex, yourself, and the team have built, and we'll talk about your plans, ambitious plans, I may add, for the future. Tell me about your personal story. Walk me through. How did you get to the built environment? What was the draw? You have an established 25-year impressive career as a senior technology leader globally. The draw to the built environment and WSP. Share that story, please, with our audience.
Really good question. Actually, if you asked me 5 years ago if I would be here, I wouldn't be sure if I would have said yes. But it's sort of a little bit of a homecoming. I'm a mechanical engineer who specialized in robotics. My first job was as an apprentice engineer was to program physical robots in General Motors assembly plants. And robots or conveyor belts or anything that has a convergence between tech and the physical world, they are generally sculptures if they don't involve code and programming and technology. So that's how I got into technology. And I remember it just like yesterday, Javier. The day I pressed that button on that soft plastic keyboard and a 2-ton robot swung around because of little pieces of code that you had written, I said, there's something here about the fusion of the physical and the technical world, if you will. From there on, I did several roles. I joke around on the dark side of consulting and helping clients and management consulting and software. I say it, of course, as a joke. But then I flipped over to the client side and I said, I'm going to live with the consequences of the advice I had given to my previous clients. Spent some time in Rio Tinto, banking and insurance, did a small stint in professional services and technology. But then why I say to bring it all back together, why it's a little bit of a homecoming, when the discussion started with WSP, they had me meet all these amazing engineers and scientists working day in and day out to make this world a better place today than it was tomorrow in support of our clients. It was sort of a homecoming for me back to this engineering start of my career. And here I am.
What inspires you?
I would say 2 or 3 things. Every day, make sure that somehow, directly or indirectly, we contribute to making things a little bit better today than they were yesterday. It could be in the context of business, it could be in the context of community, it could be in the context of coaching somebody around you, or giving a chance, like I got a chance for the first time as an intern engineer to start off. So I would say make things a little bit better today than they were yesterday.
Who's had the biggest impact on your life?
My current CEO won't like this, but a CEO 3 jobs ago, based in France, one of the most incredible women in the world. It was my first role reporting straight to a CEO in a C-suite role. And it was not the content, it was not the profession, what she inspired me most with. It's her ability to self-manage herself in the context of the tremendous amount of pressure and dynamics that she was facing as a CEO in the mining industry, very competitive industry, very classic industry. And I remember, she knows who she is if she ever listens to this. I remember her like yesterday. She's shaped most of my executive reflexes.
That's awesome. Amazing industry that we are in. What is your personal vision for our industry as a digital leader setting the pace at WSP on a global scale? What is that vision that, and how does it intersect with the broader mission of WSP?
Yeah, I would say it's our mission. What's exciting about this industry, I love the word world shapers. We at WSP, we've decided to choose this word world shaper, and it's not out of lack of humility. Each one of these engineers and scientists, not just at WSP, by the way, in our entire ecosystem or in our partners like yourself that contribute to this industry, day in or day out are shaping the futures of our community, our transportation system, our environmental systems. So what drives me and what my thought process for this industry, having spent a lot of time in other industries, is because of 2 or 3 variables that are happening between technology, the physical world, energy transition, modernization of the infrastructure in the Western world, all the challenges that we see and opportunities that we see at our planet. I think this is an amazing time to take tech, overlay it with engineering and science, and do order of magnitude impact in various places around how we contribute to our clients and our communities and the planet.
What are some of those possibilities? We look to a once-in-a-generation opportunity playing out, AI, big data. You're at the forefront of that at WSP with your teams. What are the possibilities to reimagine the client experience, the employee experience, society, and solving some of the, as you well said, some of the world's biggest challenges? What does that look like? What are the possibilities?
Yeah, I think there are several. Let's take 2 or 3. Let me start with perhaps how we as an industry engage with our clients. If we think about any built or natural environment, it goes through the phases of planning, design, build, run, and then maybe eventually remediate. Think about closing down a mine or a factory or so on, right? So if you think about, I'm simplifying these phases. One opportunity that strikes me tremendously, and the manufacturing world did this about 40, 50 years ago because of an American that went to Japan and suggested that maybe we can all look at the entire value chain and optimize it. Instead of architecting, then handing off to the engineer who does these magnificent 2, 3D, 4D models, and then we collapse them into 2D PDFs, and the builders take it and run with it, and then the operator has to rebuild all of that and create digital twins, and eventually we look for all that desperate information to remediate or close off a site. What if we reconfigured the value chain, overlay digital, some AI capability, so that we optimize that end to end? Now, we can't do that alone at WSP. We have to do it with partners. We have to do it with clients who are open to this type of multidisciplinary way of looking at a built and natural environment. That's one opportunity. From an internal point of view, professional services in engineering, science, and advisory are all about knowledge. And what's happening in machine learning, AI, yes, some of the recent evolutions, I always put AI in quotes, not because I'm cynical of AI, it's because it means many things to different people. But specifically what has happened in the last 2-3 years around generative, large language models, small language models, RAGs, agentic, I don't want to throw out a whole bunch of names there, is that for the first time we can take the collective brilliance of very, very, very smart people, eliminate the mundane in their day-to-day job. I had a lot of mundane things to do when I was an engineer, and get them to contribute more value much faster, because we can now abstract that mundane, have, call it the virtual expert supporting them, and then they can get to higher value. That's one area. The other area for a professional services firm like ours is we have some very, very, very smart people that retire every year and take a piece of knowledge with them. What if we're able to not only retain it, but multiply that brilliance and give junior engineers and scientists access to not 1 or 2 mentors, but the collective knowledge of 10, 20, 50 experts in a domain? Those are maybe 2 examples that I would share with you.
Share with our audience, in February, Alex and your team laid out what I would term a very bold strategy, 2025, 2027, on a global strategy basis, $200 million in strategic investments in research, innovation, and digital partnerships. Stunning figure, significant investment in its own right. Talk to me about the plan, the strategy, the scale of this. It's so ambitious. Talk to me about your perspective as a digital leader who's going to be at the forefront of, with your teams, naturally, globally, to affect that change and to help maturely pull it off.
Well, it's certainly very exciting to start off, right? For anyone who's passionate about engineering and technology and digital, it's really exciting to be part of an organization that has prioritized that. And the executive team at WSP in this strat cycle said, our ambition is to be the catalyst of modernizing our industry. Now, the strat plan that we launched is bigger than digital. There are other components in our core business. You're going to continue to see expansion in WSP. We're going to continue to look at M&A opportunities. But if I was to zoom in on the digital component, which Alex and the executive team have said, this is going to be a key component of our next strat plan, there are 2 or 3 components. First of all, we go through leveraging our domain expertise and our core. We don't try and do it separately. And we debated this. We debated this materially. Do we try and do something separate? We're bringing it in. We think our strength, I think I mentioned it in the keynote earlier, is our domain expertise. That is the strength. And frankly, many of the AI models are commoditizing with time. Their cost points are going down. They're getting democratized. We think that's going to continue to happen. The competitive advantage is our domain expertise. So if you take that premise and then you add a premise to it that we think the physical world, all those natural and built assets, for the first time are really converging with the virtual world like never before. Think about connectivity, sensors, real-time satellite, semi-real-time satellite information. I could go on. If we accept that premise, then that is creating a tremendous opportunity for us to help our clients, communities, and the planet a lot more. And so what we've committed to in this next strat plan are 2 things. We think applied digital solutions, the market for it, the opportunity for it, i.e. the clients that see value in it, is going to double in the next 5 years. We're going to lead that. Two, we believe our applied digital solutions are going to outpace the growth of our core business. And our ambition is to do that at 2 times that. And this is not simply because of our ambition to grow, it's because the demand from our clients is there. And I would finish there. It is incredible. There's not a week that goes by, and thank you, Javier. It happened in this conference where a client or a partner approached me, and said, hey, we have an idea to solve this big problem. Can we try and figure it out together? We're all trying to figure this out. And at WSP, we think it's going to take ecosystems of clients, us, partners, and in some cases, even competitors to solve these big problems. And it's very exciting.
No, 100%. Maybe share with our audience how WSP is innovatively leveraging data and insights. You talk about this domain expertise. How are you going to package that? Perhaps as there's quite a bit of discussion here at the summit with regards to data products. How do you take the insights as a byproduct of this tremendous domain experience and then deliver it perhaps in alternative methods with a subscription or monetizing it in a very valuable way that solves a huge problem for your customer, different than the project-based services, time materials, those kind of things. What is your take on that? What type of opportunity does that present for our industry? Obviously, to the goal 2 times digital, very ambitious. Going to be harder to do that on an hourly basis, perhaps with these data products and monetization, subscription. Your thoughts?
I really like that question. I spent quite a bit of my time, and some of our key leaders in the business spent quite a bit of time on change management, exactly because of what we said. For this industry to break the productivity stagnation that we've had for decades, we need to start thinking about doing things differently. Outcome-focused, results-focused, rather than effort and input-focused, if I may. And in digital, our applied digital solutions have 3 components: advisory, services, and platforms. I'm going to cover each of them. There will always be components that are quote-unquote time and material. We'll give you advice. We'll work through that with you. But more and more, what we're working with, and excitingly so right now, with what we call client zeros on several of our digital offerings, are outcome-based platforms and services where we shift the energy from talking about, well, it's going to take 2 hours to do this, 10 hours to do that. And by the way, often it disincents all the partners to find the innovative solutions for the clients, by the way. This is a message maybe for our clients as well. These type of models actually create a counter incentive to innovate. So today, I would add one more component to that. Our intention is not to become a software company. We're not going to compete with BST or Microsoft. That's not our intention. But we will own our platforms. We will co-own the knowledge and data with our clients because we have to be respectful of everybody's IP. And frankly, what's been really exciting with the third-party partners, both in technology and the client base, everybody's quite respectful of the value of intellectual property that they bring, and they're willing to accept that the monetization of that will belong to whoever brings that. So let me just make that all tangible. We have clients that own decades of data on their assets, but it's fragmented, it's piecemeal, it's highly inaccessible, and frankly, you have to do quite a bit of work to extract knowledge from it. We have engineering science expertise from hundreds of clients across the world and theoretical engineering science expertise that we can apply to it. And we have technology partners who bring their own IP on how to navigate, move around, manipulate in a positive way the data that we bring. When you bring all 3 of those together, we think we can bring value to the entire value chain. Clients can get to outcomes faster. We can start getting away from just the time and material approach and start focusing on investing in solutions that drive value. And by the way, our technology partners also benefit because it drives us to consume more of their technology stack, assuming that stack contributes to that IP, and they are not insistent on moving into the IP that belongs either to us or to our clients. Does that help?
No, absolutely. Some discussions earlier on in the conference with regards to market forces. Obviously, as you well know, private equity, consolidation, technology, as has been well documented. Who do you feel is the competitor of tomorrow? There was some discussion with regards to management consultancies, tech consultancies coming in, obviously with balance sheets at another scale and level. Accenture Industry X buying 10 to 12 engineering consultancies in the built environment, conceivably could be, hey, I'm going to fuse AI and data expertise with and acquire domain experience. Your thoughts on that was a bit of the dialogue that was surfaced here earlier in the summit. Your personal take on that. No right or wrong answer. It's just as these market forces play out, there may be some new disruptive forces coming in.
Not just new, I think they're already there,
Yeah.
Javier, in multiple places. This discussion is very active at the executive committee and at WSP today. I'll make 2 or 3 comments and maybe just bring it together. First of all, a lot of the technology consultancies, I worked with one of them, by the way, for one of them for a while, 95,000 people across the world. In several domain areas are hungry to work with a company like WSP. And actually, since our strat plan launch, we've sort of actually several of those consultants have reached out, and our posture today is that we think 1 + 1 = 4 or 5 in that case today, because they are far making an acquisition of a technology company, acquiring an engineering and science and advisory. We think the culture gaps today are significantly important to the point where 1 + 1 could equal 3 if we can find the right configuration. And today we have 2 or 3 engagements with some of the top 5 or 6 that you just mentioned, where they've brought a client to the table that's trying to solve a complex problem. They are experts in the tech space. They're experts in the integration space, and we're adding the expertise in the physical or built space. And if we agree on that domain of them converging, then 1 + 1 = 3, 4. Now, I cannot predict the future. Could they all buy out engineering and science firms, eventually build that muscle and bring that together? I cannot forecast today. But what's exciting today is the demand is so high and the opportunity to bring the two together that we think there's plenty of time, plenty of space, and plenty of problems to solve, by the way, for the combination.
Loved your remarks in your keynote. Your focus on big, hairy problems, I think is the word that you use. Dreaming big, pioneering, world shapers. Where does that come from? Is that is that a culture at WSP? Is that the ambition that is playing out at WSP? Maybe a bit of context on the scale and the strength of those remarks resonated with me in terms of we really want to change the game, is how I took it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, right on. I mean, I have to say, Alex, our CEO, is big on this notion of dream big. This is well before digital. You've seen the progress of WSP. I've only been there 3 years, but the story over the last 10 years
Unbelievable.
Is just incredible, and we're not done. So that is already built into the culture. When it comes to the digital space, what we find is that because of, and I can say this, I'm an engineer, engineers love to solve problems. So we find problems, we solve them once, and we just start over. Well, what if we can find common foundations to the problems, solve them, and scale them across the world so we don't have to start from scratch every time?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, for me, the equivalent of dream big in the digital space. We've already identified 7 or 8 different offerings and capabilities, some in Australia, some in the US, some in Europe, some in South America, where we have to stop building it once and delivering it once to our client. How about we build it once, scale it, and deliver it 1,000 times with partners and other clients?
How do you spoke very clearly to the mundane tasks, stripping that out. I believe you use as high as 90% as a possibility to really unleash their passion, which is engineering and science. Maybe a few of those use cases that maybe our audience can contemplate. that where you see real prizes to strip out that noise, that friction, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That maybe others could benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. So at WSP, if you look at if I was to grossly summarize the output of what our engineers, scientists, and advisors do at WSP, about half of it is complex 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D models, cost and green impact. The other half is analysis, reports, environmental analysis, subsurface analysis, and so on. If I put aside the modeling side, because there's much bigger challenges, and AI today still has a lot of work to do to have massive impact there. And I stay at the other half of the deliverables we do. I've sat down with scientists that are having to do very mundane work of looking at lab tests, validating that information, summarizing conclusions from that information, and presenting it to the output or the client. As an engineer, I was doing this 25 years ago. The senior engineer would hand me all the basic stuff that he or he, in that case, did not want to do, and I would make it, and it still has to be done because of compliance issues, regulations, the deliverable, local laws, and so on. All those language and prescriptive output-based work, we believe have tremendous potential to be simplified, automated, and reduced because of some of the technologies that we're seeing. And we're already seeing some nice traction where you could take out 60, 70, 80%. Now, I do have to qualify, I said it in my keynote, for the time being, we're still adopting what we call a machine-in-the-middle approach.
Explain that, if you don't mind elaborating on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't think that we are ready for now. There are two components to helping a neural network or a large language model produce good output. How you train it and how you review the output and improve it and feed it back into the model so the next output is of higher quality. The machine-in-a-model concept is that our biggest challenge is actually picking the knowledge and the data that you use to train the model. And frankly, none of it is available publicly. It's with our clients. It's with us today. And there may be 6 or 7 ways to build a pedestrian bridge. But the way is what we want to try and get to for that context, and curating that information. All these new technologies doesn't solve which data or knowledge you're going to use to create that. And that's one of our key importance. So that's one side of the middle, curating and training the model. The other side, especially in regulated areas, is the outputs still need quality assurance. As you know, in our industry, I used to work in other industries. You can make mistakes, you can be probabilistic, but in our industry, mistakes in some cases cost lives. So you have to be very, very specific on quality assurance on the output before it comes out. And this is this notion of AI can be the machine in the middle. It could take out 60, 70, 80% of the work, but we are non-negotiable about the curation. Has to come from our senior folks, and the quality assurance.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, the standard of care is on par with medicine. People die if, from an engineering perspective, and certainly in medicine as well. Fascinating concept there. 10 years from now, what does this all look like? What does WSP look like? What does this once in a generational opportunity, internet was one in in 83, came out, announced the birth of the internet. We're now at the fourth industrial revolution, many argue, or would say. What does this play out in the built environment? What does it look like 10 years looking back? What would you expect, and what would you not expect?
Amazing. Really good question, by the way. If I could answer that, I probably would not be here for now. But let me give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot. 10 years. 10 years in the technology world is a long time. So I do think, if I may, I'm going to go back to the first job I had. One of the first jobs I had, I mentioned, I was helping program robots and machines that automated tasks that were being done by people. And as you know, 20, 30 years ago, even earlier than that, in the manufacturing industry, a lot of jobs were replaced by robotics and automation, and we as a society had to shift our energy somewhere else. And although I'm personally extremely allergic to hype in the tech industry, this trend that we're seeing today of quote unquote AI is not going away. And what's really very different about it is it's coming after, I'll use my white collar here, white collar work,
knowledge-based work,
knowledge-based work, like I've never seen before. So for sure, in our industry, there will be a component, a big component, particularly when you get into what I will call the beginner type of work. So if I was to just simplify and think about a bachelor's level of knowledge, a master's level of knowledge, and a PhD level of knowledge in one domain, I'm going to use this example for a moment. I think we're going to see more and more an acceleration of contribution of our junior engineers and scientists to get to the master's and PhD much faster, because a lot of the other stuff is going to get commoditized. So it behooves us all, and by the way, that's a challenge with AI, whereas our junior engineers in the past used to learn from the senior person. They're sitting next to them, they work on a project.
Mentoring him.
Senior person wants to work from home, they're retiring, the machines are replacing the mechanical work. Who is going to help the juniors become the PhDs?
That knowledge transfer, yeah.
So we think there's and by the way, we think there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity to do it right by using the class. So one aspect of what could happen in the next 10 years to our engineering and science workforce is that there will be an acceleration between the time they are trained, whichever way they're trained. I'm not going to comment whether it's going to be universities or not, because they're going through their own revolution today, to the time they can bring value to solve these complex problems. I think a lot of that is going to get simplified and optimized, and it's going to look very, very different than today. One topic. The second element I would imagine is that in our space, to solve a problem around a building or a transportation system or a mining solution, it's not just one domain. You need to take multiple domains, synchronize them, have them debate ideas, correlate between them to come up with possible scenarios. I gave the example of smart whales. To avoid a collision between a whale and a boat, it takes about 6 or 7 different domains to think through, be creative, align, and bring it all together. We also think that the next generation of AI will take multiple domains and be able to synchronize, orchestrate possible solutions together. How far will it go? Will it be able to deliver the final answer? I'm not going to answer that question. I don't know. We're going to find out in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, I mean, critical thinking. That's another conversation for another day. Is how do we preserve critical thinking in this AI era? It's been an honor to host you on this podcast, to host you at our AI Summit. You bring such a deep and reasoned and thoughtful perspective on digital and the built environment, and your vision and that of Alex, I may say, is so compelling and inspiring is the word that comes to me. So I wish you, Alex, and WSP the very best in your endeavors, and thank you again for everything.
Javier, thank you for the invitation. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was my first time at this summit. Really impressive. Thank you. Thank you
very much. And thank you to our audience for joining us today on the Trailblazers podcast. Until next time, take care.